All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Jess.
Thanks for coming out here. Very excited to be here this morning on this panel, Beyond Gaming and Film. My name is Jess Engel, and I'm the Director of Original Content at Within, which is a VR technology company founded by Chris Milk and Aaron Koblin. And we are an app for content and distribution. And very excited to be here today to be discussing, experiences that sort of go beyond what we know. With the birth of a new medium, this challenges us to experiment beyond frameworks that we've been using so far. And to use a quote that Barnaby actually kicked off to me, what does VR enable that wasn't possible before? And so the panelists up here are creating experiences that don't really fit into the categories of games or films, but kind of are experiences that are helping define what is possible right now in this space. So without further ado, I'll kick it off to the rest of the panelists.
Thanks, Jess. Hi, everyone. I'm Colum Slevin. I'm the head of experiences at Oculus VR on the content team. And my job is it's the best job in the world, with the possible exception of Evelyn's, which she can talk about in a minute. So what I do is I'm responsible for helping content creators, independent producers, developers build content, build experiential content to bring it to the platform. So we find and incubate and fund content that fits into this emerging category that we refer to as experiences. And I get asked a lot that question. I ask myself that question a lot. People ask, what do we mean by an experience? And on the one hand, I resist the temptation to be definitive. I think that we have this human instinct to categorize and to specify and to be really clear. But two things happen. One is we define in a super sweeping general way, like we say, oh, experiences, that's all that narrative stuff, right? Or people say experiences, that's the non-games stuff, which is the most sort of insidious definition because it's defining something by what it's not, which is not good. Or not productive, not helpful. So a lot of the time I tell myself, let's avoid boxes. Let's just not talk about putting things in boxes, mainly because, a year ago, I couldn't have imagined an experience like Notes on Blindness. And a year from now, I can't imagine what we'll see from the creative community and from the development community that will, shift our perception again about what's possible in the medium. So I think definitions are risky, mainly because the category is so broad and so deep and evolving so quickly. But having said that, I'll take a stab at definition because when you have a lot of conversations with people, I feel like you end up sort of boiling things down to a couple of fundamental, sort of unshakable truths that you believe about things. And when I think about, I'm a gamer. I love playing games. I've been a lifelong gamer, and I feel like you can define games with two simple principles. They're about agency and mastery. Agency in the sense that you precipitate everything that happens in the game. You're driving it forward, whether it's Bejeweled or Robot Recall or Dead and Buried or Twister. It doesn't matter. You're moving things ahead. You're the actor. You're the principal driver of the delight of the experience. And mastery meaning that the skills you develop give you an endorphin rush, and it's really super pleasing. And whereas experiences, on the other hand, feel to me much more like the way I feel about movies personally. I feel like movies put a hook in you at a young age or at a formative age that stay in you forever. They change you. And so I feel like experiences use the principles of mechanics of game design and cinematic language and theatrical performance and all of these different types of media to evoke a narrative and evoke a feeling and a sense of embodiment in another reality. But I do feel like that's the power of experiential content, is that it can change people, not in a particularly high-minded way, but in a very real way, that you end up thinking. Like a week doesn't go by when I don't think about John Hull and Notes on Blindness since I experienced that piece. Like I really feel like that's the power. Games are very straightforward to define and very clear. Experiences less so, but I think that's what's exciting about it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and next we have Arnaud.
Yeah, hi.
I'll pass this to you.
Hi everyone. I'm Arnaud Colinart from Agate Film Ex Nihilo. We are a production company in Paris, and I'm really focused on new media experience. We started this project 2 years ago with the British company Archer's Mark and a French startup called Audio Gaming, which is a video game studio. And this is our first VR project released in June for Samsung Gear VR, and I will show you a short trailer.
This is cassette 1, track 1, Notes on Blindness. Sitting in the park with the children, I hear the footsteps of people walking past me, rustling of the newspaper, murmur of conversation. The myriad voices and sounds create a panorama of music and information. Where there is no activity, there's no sound, and then that part of the world dies. The earliest experience of panic took place in the middle of December. I left the house, but had only gone about 100 yards when I was aware of a growing feeling of doubt and uncertainty, as if I was banging my head, my whole body against the wall of blindness. As one goes deeper into blindness, the things which once one took for granted, then tried desperately to compensate for, in the end, cease to matter. I think I am beginning to understand what it's like to be blind.
So, the main question of this project is, how does it feel to be blind? It's a question I think every one of us ask at a point by trying to closing our eyes. But is it possible to understand disability or blindness just with perception? It's only a question of intimate and personal matters, and this is what the story of John Hull is exploring. John Hull was an academic and philosopher from Birmingham in UK, and age 40 he became totally blind, and he started recording his notes on blindness, 16 hours of tapes, and he tried to understand what blindness was doing to him and to his family. And we started this project when Peter and James Middleton, two British directors, meet John and his family. So this material, the tapes and the transcription of the tapes, 300 pages, were the start of this project. This project is a feature film on the side and a VR experience. And when we start the digital part of it, we were really focused on the audio side of the material. We never thought we will made a VR experience with John Hull's story at the beginning. We were focused on a pure 360 interactive audio experience. We wanted to do a kind of interactive podcast. We were a big fan of Serial by American Life, and this was the beginning of this work on John Hull testimony. And with the first prototype, it was an interactive podcast for Android and iOS. We saw that we missed the point, an important point in John Hull works, which is the transmission of his experience to sighted audience. Then we start to work on a visual representation of what John Hull called the world beyond sight. So we start working in this, how to represent, how to find a visual metaphor of blind perception. So we explore this question of glimpse, of void, and the main concept was everything you see in the experience is linked to sound activity. The first artworks were a little technological with a lot of vertex, and we tried to have a more poetic approach. And then we finally arrive at this art direction that you can. So in the project, the art direction was really impacted also by the technical limitation of the mobile, but our engineer made amazing work to transmit that on screen. So the key element in the creative process, I guess, is that we always put the narrative script first. We always start with the story, and then the interactive script, we work on how the interaction can bring an experience, in this narrative experience, and then the art direction. So the first iteration of the project was a pure audio. Then we work in a 360 magic window mode, and we made some prototype in VR on Samsung Gear, and the project switch in a full VR experience because the immersion was so strong that it really changed the way people will discover the story. And what is always funny for me is when we play the teaser in 2D in a room, it's especially because there is a lot of dark and few lights, it's really disappointing, I guess, for the audience. It's really something that is relevant in VR. So really, for us, the key element in this creative process have been putting the narrative script first, then the interactive, the art direction, and testing. And testing, it's not only for the digital. Testing is not only for the technical part. It's really on what you feel when you are connected to this experience. Maybe because we are French, all of theory are around food. So with Amaury from audio gaming, we have this theory of presence we call the onion theory, which is that the onion theory is start with this question: what if? We talk a lot about presence in technological way, but I think on my side the main element are storytelling and emotion. And if you feel this connection with the experience, it's because there is John Hull voice and John Hull story. You can have the feeling of presence reading a book, Harry Potter, or watching a David Lynch movie. And I think creators need really to remind that presence, it's not only a technical element. Then there is gradual construction. We are trying to introduce the rules and the behavior of this universe little by little to not lose the user. The interaction, of course, is important in VR to feel connected. And also we have all the sound element, the visual, and for us, the sound design and the real-time binaural rendering is an important part of this immersion. And the last element are what we call the rubber band storytelling. Is this idea that we will adapt the rhythm of the experience depending of the behavior of the user. And for example, someone who is just watching in front of him, we will play the experience, the voice faster to keep the flow and to complicate or simplify the experience. So this is basically the main concept we try to apply to create this project, in which we are using video game tool. It's made with Unity to create a narration and an experience that maybe is close to a feature film or a cinematic experience. And so the two parts of the project are the feature that will be released in November in US, and the VR that you can experience right now on Oculus.
Thank you. And yeah, for anybody who hasn't watched Notes on Blindness, it's really a phenomenal experience. And I think what I find so fascinating about it is that it recreates the feeling of you actually do get, you get to actually experience what it's like to be blind, which is something that feels very counterintuitive for virtual reality, which is such a visual medium. But it's an experience that's just so native, to this. Like there's a feature film version of this, and then there's a VR experience. And I haven't had a chance to watch the film version, but I can't imagine that what you were able to create in VR, that feeling, can be replicated in 2D cinema. So I definitely encourage everybody to watch it. It's pretty amazing. Thank you.
Great work, dude. Loving the point clouds. So, this is me, Barnaby Steele, Barnaby Churchill Steele from London. And so I've got a creative studio called Marshmallow Laser Feast. And so I was going to start with a showreel of our non-VR stuff, because it kind of tells the story of exploring, 360 immersive experiences. And there's always been this thread of kind of twisting the senses. So we'll start with a little showreel. Oh, there's my name again. Let's just see. And then we discovered VR, and our world changed. This is my co-founder, Robin. And it's just, you know, it's a beautiful moment. So, VR. So just to sort of riff off where we've come from, our studio was set up to kind of milk the advertising agency for as much money as we can get, and then do our kind of cool creative stuff. And so VR for us has always been self-initiated and purely for the sort of joy of exploring and playing. And there's another aspect that sort of runs through our work, which is we used to be a more traditional animation, or coming from a traditional animation background of keyframes and imagining what you want to create in advance, and then you make mistakes, you hit render, you wait 4 hours, it looks appalling, and then you do this process again and again. And so really, probably about 10 years ago, I started working with creative coders. And it was a real moment of transition where I realized once a system's been built, you can play with it and it promotes these happy accidents. And so ever since then, I think our sort of embracing of play and experimentation has been at the core of our process. And so often, you know, the projects that we do come from these happy accidents and these moments. So that's why, you know, VR became this really fun platform for us. Here we go, next one. So starting with this question, one of our first projects, which didn't actually work properly because of the uncanny valley, but it was going beyond the limits of eyeballs. So we were interested in taking on the challenge of photogrammetry, and so, you know, part of this is learning the technology as we go and really discovering what's possible as you sort of go through this process. So the ambition was to photorealism within VR. Can we capture the wonderful Beryl? And the concept for the piece was really quite simple, to scale up her head within a VR experience and to experience her skin like a landscape. And just that change of scale and having a sort of orbiting light source might turn these wrinkles into the beautiful textures that we see when we're looking at sort of time-lapse mountains. Wow. And so, because you can, we printed one out. We're selling ice cube trays. We do door stops. This is a bit of behind the scenes. We work with, we're always collaborating with different studios. These guys, Analog, we've known for a very long time. And so, the ambition was to take it into VR, and that asset's still waiting for the moment when we can sort of bring this stuff into Unreal. But at the moment, we can't get the fidelity that we're after. But here she is, the wonderful Beryl. This was all pre-rendered, and these were our tests. But it never went beyond the lab. So then,
I like the music.
Beyond the limits of human senses, we had a great opportunity to be part of the And Festival, which is they commission different artists to create pieces for a sculpture park. And so we're wandering through the woods, and we hadn't had any magic mushrooms. There was nothing like that going on. We're just talking about nature and thinking, you know, what would it be like to see the world through the eyes of a different animal? And so, yeah, and this was, I guess, you know, back to that point at the beginning, thinking about virtual reality. What does it enable that wasn't possible before? And certainly seeing the world as a mosquito is something that wasn't possible, and it's still not possible, but you can kind of pretend and simulate something along those lines. So I'll just whiz through some slides there. The actual piece was, this is my mum. Yeah, I got my mum in here. She explains it really well. Could we have a bit more volume?
Amazing experience. It gave you a totally different view of things. And I really felt with that pack on my back that I was like...
That's Urson pretending to be a sound man with a fern.
Quite extraordinary. And particularly when it alighted on the forest floor and then there was a pause and then it took off again. Amazing. Totally different view of things.
Yeah. It's good to get your mum in the slideshow. Here's a dude with a dog. So the experience was designed to actually make you more aware of the forest environment when you come out. So we 3D scanned the environment where the installation was. So when you take off the headset, people will gather around a little swampy section and be like, "Oh, was I down there in the swamp?" Or "I think we went up there over the branches." But in reality, they moved us. So it wasn't actually the place that we'd scanned, but they thought it was anyway. That was the intention. And yeah, I have to say thanks to Subpack, because they've been supporting us with all our projects and going out of their way to give us the amazing Subpacks. This is a little video teaser of it.
Well done, dudes. What a show. What a show. Unbelievable. Very
my dad.
clever.
He's a
Amazing.
very encouraging man. And then you get reactions like this. Where am I? I love that one. Okay, so and then so obviously these works they don't just have to live in the box, and we were lucky to be part of Ron Arrad's curtain call, and exploring them as full domes and on 360s is very much sort of an interesting way of exploring these virtual worlds. And so I'm conscious of time. I'm going to whiz through these quite quickly. So a project that we're working on at the moment is sort of exploring tree time. And again, it's this thing of human time. We're so locked into it, we're not really aware that we're in the midst of this mass extinction. And so somehow by using a tree as a metaphor and accelerating time within the experience, you get to see, a redwood grow from a seed over 3,200 years to the biggest living organism on the planet. So we've been doing some tests at the moment, some LiDAR scans, and thinking about seeing through to the root systems and following the journey of water from the roots all the way to the transpiration at the tip. These are some early tests, and again at this stage this is self-funded. Although we have got some arts funding, we're sort of looking to develop this project further. And on the left there, that's a CT scan of soil. And so it's super interesting to think about image-making techniques that sample the real world in a way that you couldn't see it, and then allowing that to be experienced in VR sort of unleashes a whole load of wonder, doesn't require any modeling. And so these processes are super interesting to us. And another one that's going on back in London is a collaboration with Heston Blumenthal. And so we're asking the question, can people taste in their dreams? And if so, can we flavor them? And so this piece is, we've got like a year and a half to develop a pretty surreal theatrical taste tester menu where we can explore this combination of how virtual reality can, hacking the eyes and the ears, can manipulate flavor. And that would be a sort of narrative piece that takes you on a crazy journey. You can actually be the food at some point. We're using facial capture, and you can have a conversation with your friend who's the last halibut, which would be quite fun. He knows everything about you, but you're just talking to a fish. So that could be good.
Are you finally going to have some marshmallows?
Absolutely essential, yeah. I was thinking, we've got the lasers in there. I need to get that in. And then finally, I'm here living in LA, just moved to LA. I've got my surfboard, and I'm working on a long-term amazing project with Red Pill VR, and we've got our jellyfish has been in the disco room in the corner every evening. I've got some little nuggets here, and in fact, Laurent's down here, and we're looking for. I should tell you about the company quickly. Basically, they've written an amazing tool that does source separation. So you plug in your music, it separates it out into the stems. And then I'm working with an amazing Unreal team to basically develop these audio life forms. So it's about bringing music to life within VR, and the brief's pretty open. It's kind of an exploration and a long-term vision. And this is our first piece, which is a jellyfish. And I've got a little video that I took last night. It's not great. Okay, the cocktails were quite strong. Definitely wasn't. I put that in late last night. Anyway, so if you speak to Lauren, if you're into Unreal, we're really looking for good, talented people to work with, and yeah, that's me. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks. And I think what's so interesting about both of your pieces is it plays with perception, and with Notes on Blindness, it's about connecting to other humans, and with Through the Eyes of the Animal, it's about connecting with nature and animals. And it's also really interesting that you guys both approached the visuals, a similar type of visual aesthetic. Instead of doing a 360 video, you decided to take this approach with it, which we can maybe go into later. But I like that. That's cool. All right, next we have Evelyn.
Hello, good morning. My name is Evelyn Miralles. I work for NASA at Johnson Space Center in Houston. And just to give you a little bit of my background, I'm a computer scientist with a graphics degree, computer graphics and computer science. And I went to work for NASA over 20 years ago. And my primary role was to develop a VR system for preparing astronauts to do very incredible jobs above the Earth. So I've been developing VR for many, many years. And I think probably the public didn't know that NASA was really using VR for these kind of activities. But we basically built our own graphics. There was really nothing at the time that we can use. So we have to develop our own graphic engine from the startup. And also we added, helmets and everything to make it immersive. So since then, VR for us has evolved. And the most interesting part about this is that after training, and this is, I'm talking more to the engineering side of it, very methodical and procedures, I realized that we were really telling a story to the astronauts. For every mission they were going to perform, we have to basically present them with a story, an experience. And that's basically what we have done for them, apart from the technicality of the tasks. So I'm going to run through different slides. It's very complicated to really talk about everything that I would want to do. It's such a short amount of time, but I hope I can cover as much of the depth and the mental preparation that needs to be done when the astronauts do this incredible job of spacewalking, which is very fascinating. So this is first slide. This is our graphics, basically a perspective of the space station, which hopefully everybody knows there is a space station laboratory orbiting the Earth, right? Yes, you know. Thank you so much. Yes, go NASA. So we have done our job. So, and this is incredible. There is a lot of research going on there. And imagine building this, though. Go back 20 years ago or more when we decided that we were going to build this. We had a little bit of the graphics going on with the space shuttle at the time, but we never really imagined that we can actually build this with international partners unless we visualize it in VR. And that's what we did. We visualized what this was going to look like piece by piece, and we added real-time simulations for that to manipulate the robotic arms that needed to be used to accomplish the task of moving modules in outer space, orbiting the Earth. So VR became our friend, and we put the astronauts in this environment, and they started to really immerse themselves. And again, like I mentioned before, it is very procedural, but the end result is that we are providing an experience. And imagine that they are our clients, the astronauts and the trainers are our clients, and we are providing the system. So anybody can do this in many other areas in the world, on Earth, to do many other activities. This slide that I'm going to show you here is pretty quickly represents another way of storytelling, if you will. When we lost the Columbia shuttle in 2003, which is very devastating for us, we have to go over and stop a little bit the program and see what was going on. And for every mission we did, we have to basically inspect the belly of the space station, the underside of the space station of the space shuttle. And at some point, we thought that we might needed to send, if there was a shuttle out there orbiting, we might needed to send another shuttle to rescue the people there and bring them back with a secondary shuttle. This never happened, really. But the point is that we have to present this story again, another experience of how this could be done. So we put people in helmets in the cockpit. You don't see it from this perspective, but probably from this perspective, they could see how two shuttles could mate when you orbit the Earth. And again, this never happened, but it was a story, and it's in the books now. This is another story about going into an asteroid and potentially doing some experimentation, having an EVA, extravehicular activity or spacewalk person, going out there and do some kind of research and activities using a vehicle, a space vehicle like you see there. And that was another way of representing immersively, because we did it in VR, although you see here in 2D, we have people in from the two guys' perspective in immersing VR, and they can actually be there. So VR is extremely powerful, and it has been for us for many, many years. This is pretty interesting because it's basically the perspective from the two astronauts. You see the small two windows on the top are the Spacewalker 1, we call it Spacewalker 2, and there's always two pairs, two people that go outside to do this activity. And here we have them together there. It's just in position to go out there, basically. And they can actually perform in a spacewalk in real time. When they come to our lab. I never mentioned this, but our lab is very small. It has been composed out of 4 to 7 engineers since inception. So since the beginning, I have been part of it, and it has been phenomenal to see, how the brain works into accomplish this incredible task, and see the people actually evolve from not understanding the mission and then getting it to the point where they're ready to go. Here is another view. We do a lot of this, obviously. We go to the planetary, and this is a visual from the moon to the Earth. And we did a lot of different setups with habitats in the moon, and also, of course, Mars. With our graphics, with our graphic engine, we can actually real-time fly and get to every planet. So that's something that we have there as the missions progress. Here I'm going to show you a quick video of a spacewalker that just got detached from the space station. and he's saying, Mayday, Houston, we have a problem. So he's tumbling around, and you can see from his perspective how dangerous, how scary it could be. Imagine this happening at nighttime. Nighttime has been described by astronauts as being very dark, a darkness that you can touch. So when you're out there and you only have your helmet lights and you have the few of the station lights going on, it's pretty terrifying. So doing this in VR in our lab, it really makes them it gives them courage. It gives them a security. They have seen this. Visualizing in a stereo and 3D is something that we do since we're born. That's our natural way of perceiving and learning. And then we evolve into having 2D. But really, immersive in VR and 3D is very natural to us. And we, as you see, the astronauts feel very comfortable after doing this in VR. And they call us from a space station, from the shuttle too, when we had that, and they said, it looks just like the VR lab. And that's the most amazing feeling, having done this, obviously, for so many years, to hear that over and over again. So, VR is a way of where you control your environment, and it's a way that you can configure to be so many things and accomplish, a task with a purpose. And that's probably what I want to convey here more than anything. I'm going to go to the next video so that I don't bore them with in a spacewalk. This is another perspective of the same rescue that he was doing, but actually from the guide's perspective view outside, seeing him tumbling, you see him there. And all those lines are for reference because we need to test them. This is a test for them, and we need to see how well they're doing. And some of those lines means where he's looking at, where his body is pointing, his pointing view from the body, and also as the vector gets bigger and larger from the space station or his distance. So anyway, so this is another perspective from our view. Let me go to the other slide. Now this one is a real spacewalk that we do for every time you hear of a spacewalk. We have been involved anytime that I have participating in over 200, supporting over 200 spacewalks. So this is kind of a rendering final of one of the spacewalks that was done last year. And you can see how we go through step by step. It's very procedural. But again, you can see this in virtual reality. I mean, you can actually, they play this in VR. In 2012, we sent to a space station. We built our own prototype helmet, and we sent it to a space station. And the astronauts use that in order to visualize their spacewalk before they do the task. And it is important because it's a refresher. And then I'm going to go to the last one. So, what's next and what we want to see is, here's a little clip of doing actually a 360 video, real-time video recording inside the space station. And it's probably what we want for the future. We want for everybody in the world to actually be there, a participant, and see a space station from inside and everything that's going on. And the astronauts, like you see Kate. Kate is actually up there right now, and Jeff just came back, Jeff Williams. He's the world record, United States world record, the most time in space, a very good friend, and he's got the opportunity to take this video. So in conclusion, I just want to say that I not only has been very honored to do this, to prepare astronauts for this task, but also the amazing power of VR beyond just beyond just games, really, and nothing to take away from game and filming, because I do believe that entertainment gives us, and to us engineers, also a way of dreaming and then thinking beyond the box of things that, doing things differently. So the creativity sometimes comes from film and give us ideas, and then we go out there and say, okay, how can we put this together and make it work? So I have obviously so much more to say, but this such a a small amount of time. Thank you for being here, and I hope see you again.
Thank you, Evelyn. Yeah. And something that Evelyn and I had talked about yesterday when she was telling me about the work that she does with astronauts was just about how important it is for them to be able to visualize a trip, and how that sort of builds their confidence so that when they actually go to space.
That's something that I talked to her, and it was kind of interesting as I, capture the idea of, telling, seeing things in a different perspective. But I was doing a hike at Yosemite, and 2 years ago or something like that, and I was prepared physically and everything to go up to the Half Dome. And when I got to the base, I was terrified. I thought, how can I see, the angle? I started to, do my mathematics. It's 85% angle. Should I do this? What about looking back? And I wish I had done this in VR, because I probably would have done it. So imagine the possibilities of showing people, places and going to places that you maybe are afraid of, or to teach some kind of training for. I mean, there's so many opportunities, and just make sure you do VR with a purpose for this kind of scenarios. But definitely, that's something that and that's what we do to the astronauts, prepare them mentally.
Thank you.
Incredible.
All right, so to start rounding this out, I'm gonna kick it off to Colum.
Thank you. Nothing I will ever do will come close. It's incredible. But something I forgot to mention at the beginning was Henry. So another part of our experience portfolio is the amazing internal story studio team at Oculus, recent Emmy Award winners, yay, go team. And I was actually thinking about something as Evelyn was talking and as the guys were talking that I've heard Sashka say, Sashka, the creative director at the Story Studio, which is that powerful VR creates this experience that is like the memory of a dream. I'm probably not doing that paraphrase complete justice, but it goes back to what I was sort of saying at the beginning, is that these experiences and the perspectives they present to you, whether it's the perspective of someone who has a different human experience than you've had, or a different species than you, or an astronaut who's preparing to do something, when they're done well, they put a hook in you, and you retain that memory, and you retain that experience throughout your life. Like I don't think it's high-minded or excessive to say that VR experiences change you. Like they're extremely powerful. And they're extremely new. The thing I think we struggle with the definition stuff that we were talking about at the start is that film and literature and even game design now, with so many decades of that behind us, have this taxonomy. They have this language. They have this vocabulary where everyone has heard that cliche of someone pitching a movie as it's the it's high noon in space, or it's this plus this. It's there's a calculus of how to describe the creative output of something, because people are like, oh yeah, I get that. I've seen that movie, and that movie, and I can imagine melding them together because we have that shared language now. And again, I know it's a cliche. We talk a lot in VR about creating a language or exploring a language or understanding it, but it's really true. It's like a year ago we couldn't have imagined putting a human being in the mind of a person who lost their sight. We couldn't have if you pitched that idea to someone I can't imagine they would give you money to do it.
Right.
Right. But yeah, here you are. You know, I think, and that's what's exciting to us at Oculus is that that's what right now that's what we're here to do. From the games perspective, like Oculus has been an amazing resource and platform for game developers. Has invested a lot in that, and that's tremendous, and it's yielded an incredible portfolio. And what we're really excited to do now is to do the same for the rest, for the community of creators that are building things that haven't been imagined yet and are in different universes. Do I play a clip?
Sure.
Yeah.
Go for it.
All right. I don't want to get your hopes up too much. Now, final video, you guys.
Final video.
See, this is a perfect example of an emergent art form. Looked pretty final to me.
Very nice. So yeah, I think hopefully you guys have taken away from this that experiences, you know, we're kind of entering this new train of experiential storytelling, you know, where it's not quite a film, and it's not quite a game, but it's some sort of hybrid of many different disciplines, but also something entirely new in and of itself, using the tools and the advantages that this new medium brings. So we have about 8 minutes left, and I kind of want to open it up to the audience if anybody has any questions specifically about these projects. Yes? Yeah, I think that there's... All right, great. Oh, great.
Hi.
Hi.
Evelyn, I've been so inspired all week, but wow, respect. Incredible. They mentioned yesterday at the keynote that there was going to be, NASA was going to be releasing the app that they use to train the astronauts for the International Space Station. Can you speak to that?
Probably. Just wait and see, it's coming.
Okay, I can't wait.
Yes,
Thank you.
definitely.
Awesome, man.
Yes. Glad you're happy about that.
There's a small snippet of that in the video you just saw that the Oculus team and Magnopus are working with Evelyn and NASA on a simulation.
Hi, Evelyn, question for you. So NASA's pretty good at robotics too. Are y'all experimenting with
I hope so. Yeah.
VR as a mechanism for controlling remote robotics?
Right.
To do really dangerous.
And your question is, yes, we're...
Are you experimenting with that? What are things that you have come up against, and any tips for people that are maybe trying to do that on Earth?
Okay, I don't necessarily, I'm not in the team to do telerobotics. NASA JPL in LA area, they do that. More of the planetary, teleportation robotics. Now we do robotics operation and training in VR for the space station robotic arm, and then we did it for the shuttle and the Japanese space station arm JAM, which is pretty complex. So all the dynamics is mathematical dynamics done from MATLAB, and we have our own internal modeling simulation that does all the computation to actually move the real-time, the graphics. And yeah, that's done. And a very exciting, actually, area. If you wanted to come to work for NASA doing that, that would be awesome.
Okay.
There's admission forms at the...
Hi, guys.
So question for you guys. I think there's never been a time where film and theater and games where the line has been blurred so much between all of them. I was wondering if you guys had any thoughts on what format a script, for lack of a better word, should look like. Should it be more like a world-building Bible, or should it be like a script, traditional, or more like a game design document?
On Not Some Blindness, we start with a script very close to a movie one, and in this script we add under interactive script. So first we have a validation of the story, then of the interaction, and after we work as in theater and we create 3D models of the scene, and on these 3D models we add some notification about, okay, these characters will move from here to here, etc., etc. So basically we mixed all this technique of scripting, and then we prototype and we are testing if it's work or not. Don't know how you did that.
Yeah, we're not really doing scripts. We're kind of like, for example, with the Redwood Tree project, we're seeing that as a destination, and you could have a chat with your mum at the top and just be chilling out, or you could do a meditation where time is syncing with your breath, or you could discover the little magic mushroom and have some kind of musical psychedelic experience. So it's kind of like building a world. If you go to the forest, you could go there to climb a tree, or you can go and chill out, and you sort of bring your own story and your own friends to that space. So I think our mindset is more about creating these worlds that you can explore and discover stuff.
That's a really good question. We see a really wide variety, just from developers, really wide variety of creative presented in different ways. I don't think a format has settled down yet.
Yeah, I agree.
Hello, I'm Celine. I'm very proud participant in the Oculus Launchpad program. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
that. My question is about live action and game engine. Most of your experience are game engine based. When do you think we'll be able to seamlessly bring live action footage into a game engine to use kind of the best of both worlds of the empathy and emotion of live action and interactivity of game engines?
I don't have the technical answer for that, but I'm not sure live action is bringing more emotion. I think, especially in the eyes of the animal or in Not Some Blindness, the emotion also comes from the fact it's virtual reality, not reality. It's another reality we are creating.
Surreal.
And I think this is the most interesting part of our job, is not to recreating realities, to create another reality, I guess.
Yeah, I think on a similar line, my interest is more in sort of expanding the world beyond our normal human senses, so using different techniques to then broaden that concept of reality. So sort of when you come back, you see it in a new light. And we're not really, in fact, the process of making these projects, when we're trying to push the realism, and it's been talked about quite a lot, that sort of uncanny valley moment, and it's just stylizing it. Your brain just accepts it as being a place familiar but totally alien, and you're like, oh, I'm here. Whereas when you try and push it towards something more realistic, it's dodgy. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't think we haven't had any success with that yet. Anyway,
I would add that, we've seen. I'm startled by how quickly the fidelity of volumetric video has improved, and there's a lot of really smart people at 8i on Corporeal and Scatter and Microsoft and all sorts of people doing really interesting work. And again, a year ago, the stuff I saw a year ago has increased leaps and bounds to where the potential to manipulate and relight and adjust skeletons on stuff you've captured in live action is within reach. So I think sooner than we expected, but I couldn't say how soon.
Yeah, and I think what's so powerful about, especially Not Some Blindness in the eyes of the animal, is how, because it's in the game engine, it reacts to you, and so it feels like it's really responding to your behavior and your movements in a way. And when 360 video or live action, we can get that 6 degrees of freedom, and you feel like the world is responding to you and maybe characters are responding to you. I think that's when it's really going to start to kick in.
And to add to that, also when we have 360, because right now we're shooting 360 from one perspective. So imagine if we can do multi-dynamically, you can move somebody, you have a 360 real view, and it's coming, but you have multi-views, and that's going to be pretty
field
good.
Technology?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's coming. It's definitely, yeah.
Thank you.
Pretty.
All right. Well, I guess we're out of time, but thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
you to all the
Thank you.
panelists. Amazing.